Hey, what's going on, traders? Happy Wednesday. Thank you guys so much for tuning back into the channel today. And for those of you who are watching the market, what an absolutely crazy day it was today, right? As you guys can see, even just looking at the chart, there was a ton of movement today. And so I'm going to go ahead and explain to you guys, if you don't know already, what caused, the market to tank the way it did, and let you guys just know how my day trading did go on the day, right? So let's get right into today's video. And as you guys can see from your screen, in terms of my day trading, right, I was up about $60 on the day. And that consisted of an $80 profit on SQQQ and a $20 loss on TQQQ, right? And so I do have some other open positions. I'm going to let you guys know exactly what I ended up buying at market close. But, these were my filled orders. You guys can see that I did start trading at 6:32, right, at market open like I typically do, right? And didn't stop trading until right at market close, right around 1 o'clock, a bit into the after market hour session. But let's get right into today's video. And so what did I see going on? Well, the Nasdaq was indicating signs of a sell-off during the pre-market hours, right? As you guys can see, anytime it would approach the middle VWAP, it would get rejected, right? And so it was trading between this small little channel where it would sell off, bounce, right? Sell off, bounce. And so as we headed to market open, I was expecting some form of play here, just because of the fact that we were having a consistent pattern during pre-market session, right? And so as I saw this thing peak out, I didn't end up getting in because of the fact that I thought it was going to push up a bit more before it sold off. But ultimately, that was my mistake on my end there. But it wasn't the biggest margin, but it still could have made you decent money if you timed it correctly, right? Just this move here alone on SQQQ could have made you about 1.5%, right? Because it is triple leverage. And so what ended up happening, this thing would sell off, bounce, right? And then it would just trade sideways, consolidate, start to sell off a bit, bounce. And so it was trading kind of sideways, and I was really struggling to find out which way direction was really going to be headed because of the fact, right, that I mentioned. It would just break above the EMA every time it would, start to sell off. And so as you guys can see, right, it would sell off, then break back above, sell off, break above, sell off. And so I was a bit confused on which way direction was truly going to be headed. Even here, for example, this thing was trying to get rejected by the EMA, but then it would bounce and then start to form these higher lows. And so I kept getting tricked out on the day. But, I knew that we did have this big meeting at 11 o'clock, which I'll explain in a bit. But so I pretty much wanted to make sure that heading into this meeting at 11 o'clock that was had, that I wasn't in a position where I was so red on the day that I couldn't risk trading the meeting anymore, right? And so that's what ended up happening. I was down about $40 heading into the meeting. And then the meeting is right around here, right? So what meeting am I talking about? For any of you who don't know, there was an FOMC meeting, right? Or short for the Federal Open Market Committee. They pretty much have a meeting about once a month. And what they pretty much announce is, in order to combat the high inflation that we're seeing in the economy, they're going to start to rate or raise the interest rates, right? So by raising the interest rates, right, their hope is that they're going to be able to cool off inflation in the long run. And so, with these reports that are given once a month, the market typically sees a huge, form of reaction, either good or bad, right? Some reports, we don't obviously know what's going to be said in the reports, but typically, these past few FOMC meetings that are, as I mentioned, once a month, they've been causing the market to tank, and the reason for that is the Federal Reserve has been having to raise the interest rates, as I mentioned, monthly, just to try to combat the inflation. So they've been acting as more of negative catalysts, but it could still really go either way, right? And so what ended up happening, we saw this thing start to shoot up, and I bought into SQQQ right as it approached the middle VWAP, thinking this thing was going to continue on its pattern of selling off and we're going to see it sell off. It ultimately started to push up very aggressively, and I had to cut losses there. So I was down, at this point about $60 on the day. And as it started to sell off again, I decided to get back into SQQQ because I still felt like the NASDAQ was very overbought and that we were just experiencing a short-lived positive catalyst before it ultimately really projects which way it wants to go, right? And so as this thing pulled up, got rejected, I bought back into SQQQ. What ended up happening? This thing started to shoot up. I had to cut losses. So at this point, I'm down about $80 on the day, right? Somewhere around there. And once I saw this thing get rejected really hard again and break below the EMA, that's when I decided to get back into SQQQ. As you guys will notice, this thing had a big sell off. I was able to cut the shares, right? And then as this thing started to bounce here, we actually saw that this thing ended up getting rejected once again, right? So once this thing did get rejected, right around here, I decided to leave an open position on SQQQ because I really felt like, given the news, and this thing peaking out, we could see this thing really start to tank on the day. That's exactly what ended up happening. This thing picks up, right? Starts to get rejected very hard. I bought back into SQQQ, as you guys will notice, right? If you guys go to my trades, you guys can see that right at 11:46ish is when I started to buy SQQQ, right? And then I didn't sell out for about another hour later, right? And the reason for that is I knew there was lots of selling pressure that was, existing because of this report that came out. So I decided to ride it until market close. So as I mentioned, I bought in around here. And because of the fact that I was already down $80, I couldn't get in with a big position size into SQQQ. Even though I was pretty certain that direction was going to be in my favor, right? I didn't know for sure. And so that's why I decided to only get in with a 12.5% position size, right? So I traded with $10,000. So I only got in with $1,250 when I normally at least size up or get in initially with a 25% position size, right? So as this thing started to sell off, I bought in with $1,250 and this thing continued to bleed on the day, right? I didn't start cutting my shares until right around this area. So as it started to bounce, I cut most of the shares and I didn't sell out of the remaining shares until right around here, right? Once we saw this little drop heading into the aftermarket hours. So huge movement on the day, right? I'm very blessed that I was able to time this move pretty perfectly, right? And I was able to take advantage of all of this. So that was about a 9 to 10% move, right? That I was able to capitalize on. And because of that, just that one movement, right, for the day, I was able to go from down 80 to up about $60. So I'm very happy, very blessed to be able to end green on the day. And so I do want to explain to you guys why I also picked up some other stuff. So as you guys will notice, I picked up some shares of Google, Meta, and Microsoft, right? So those are going to be swing trades. I do plan on holding them more long term, right? And the big reason for that is the Nasdaq did drop significantly today. And if we look at it on the bigger time frame, we obviously can see this thing can, continue to sell off, but it is at a pretty critical support area where we can see this thing potentially bounce, right? There's no doubt about it. This thing could break support and sell off, but we were willing to take that risk, especially because of the fact that, the Nasdaq has such a big drop today that there is a chance it could bounce before it continues to fall if that's the case. So that's why I decided to pick up some Google right at market close, right? So this thing was down about 4% on the day almost, and so I was able to pick some up. I bought $2,000 worth of Google. I bought into Microsoft, as I mentioned, also down about 4%, right? And so I did not take part in any of that red. So I'm very grateful and happy for that. And, so as I mentioned on the bigger time frames, these are really good deals. Even Meta itself, right? Meta itself is at $90 a share, guys. That is ridiculously low for Meta. If you guys take a look on the bigger time frame, what you'll notice is it's hit highs of almost $400. It's at $90 right now. And so I see lots of value in these companies. They're all at really good deals right now. So I'm deciding to buy some shares now, right? Doesn't mean I'm buying in with my full amount that I plan to go into each stock with. I'm just buying in with about a 25% position size, 25%, so that once the market starts to recover, right, and things start to go our way, right? And what I mean by that is rather than have direction, rather than, go down, I want this thing to obviously start going up before I add more. And so that's my plan with these swing trades. I do plan on holding them long term. So unless I see a big green day tomorrow and, they each shoot up about 3 to 4%, I'll lock that in. But Other than that, I do plan on holding these long term, but that's pretty much everything for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys are new to the channel, we really do appreciate you dropping a like and subscribing. And if you guys are, have any questions at all related to stocks, you want me to break down a stock for you or any stock indicator, go ahead and drop a comment and I will be more than happy to do that. But thank you guys so much for watching. I will be posting a recap tomorrow, so I will see you guys then. Have an amazing day.